Although it's still low, consumer sentiment is rising. What's that tell us about the stock market, where it could be headed? Got that and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. All right, so gosh, since the 60s, I believe, University of Michigan has been conducting their consumer sentiment or consumer confidence survey where, I think every month around 500 phone calls are done where they interview folks about their feelings about their finances. And those questions sound a little bit like, hey, how would you compare your finances today, or how you feel about your finances today, to how they were a year ago or how they were 6 months ago? So how do you feel today relative to the past? But then similar questions about how do you feel today compared to how you think you're going to feel 6 months from now or a year from now? So how do you feel about your finances today compared to the past and where you think we're headed? Now, obviously, when we're dealing with inflation, you can look at the charts here. I'm going to show you one in just a second. When we're, as a nation, dealing with inflation, consumer sentiment is awful, right? I mean, inflation is a tax that everyone pays. Yes, in our current tax system, it's progressive, so there are deductions and there's credits and there's all sorts of things to manipulate behavior and try to limit the overall tax burden being equally felt no matter your social economic status. But inflation, there's no issue. Everyone feels that burden. And if you don't have a lot of resources or things are getting pinched, you're gonna feel pretty crummy about your finances. I've been doing this more and more lately. I was with my daughter at a softball tournament just recently. We needed to split up and Cindy went with the boys and I took her and we went out to lunch and I had that boomer moment, guys, where I look and I said, honey, it seems a little crazy because a couple years ago, instead of being $9.50, this would have cost $5, whatever she was ordering at the menu. And so we're all feeling that way. So yes, inflationary times tend to be negative from a sentiment. But what does the consumer sentiment, what does this index, what's this survey tell us about the stock market and where the stock market's going? Well, take a little trip with me. Let me just pretend for just a second. How could you tell time? How would you determine what time it was if you didn't have a clock and you really had no concept of how days work? They weren't as predictable. Most likely, you would be looking and saying, okay, gosh, the sun is out. It's really, really bright. And it's been getting brighter. Based on my intuition here, I'm assuming it's going to stay bright for a long period of time. And you'd be right. It would stay bright for a long, long, long time. And then all of a sudden it would start getting dim and darker and darker and darker, and you get worried, and all of a sudden, sun's gone, and it's completely dark out. And if someone asked you, okay, well, what do you feel right now? You'd say, oh my goodness, that the bright light went away, it's really dark. I would expect it's gonna stay dark for a long period of time. I have no idea, it's gonna be dark for a while. At the darkest moment, right, darkest before dawn, at the darkest moment, if someone were to ask you, hey, what's your sentiment about how things are going compared to how they were, and where you think things are going to continue to go, you'd have no option other than to say, yeah, actually, I feel pretty crummy today compared to a while ago when it was bright out, and my outlook for the next 6 months, it's just going to stay dark. It's just, I don't see this changing. It's gotten progressively darker, right? And because the stock market is always uncertain and always working to prove as many people wrong as possible, there's no predictability like there is to a day and time to when things improve and when things adapt and as they shift. Consumer sentiment, though, just like that absurd example, provides a very good contrarian, turns out, a very good contrarian indicator of where the market might be heading. I know there's a lot going on here on this chart, but sort of that dotted line below that at those points, at those blue dots below that, that's where consumer sentiment has been very negative, has been very low. February of 1975, May of 1980, those are inflection points. And what did the stock market do 12 months after that? Positive 22%, positive 20%. What about October of 1990? 29% after that. Look at those other areas. In fact, if you look at that top legend, top left, the average subsequent 12-month S&P 500 returns during those 9 inflection points, those 9 points below that dotted line, the stock market returned 24%, over 24% over the next 12 months, versus those high points when the survey said, it's really bright out. It's great. I love the sunshine. I don't see it changing. Things are great right now. Sentiment was good over the next 12 months. Stock market's still positive, so it's always good to be an investor, but on average, only up 3.5% over the next 12 months. I showcased this chart on a video maybe about a year ago when we were at a very, very low point. Now take a look at where we are right now. And yes, you would say June of 2022, we were about at the low point. We were in a bear market officially. I think the low, or we retouched the lows in October of 2022, but that was a pretty awful time to be an investor. You didn't want to look at your statements. You're still feeling that way. Things haven't fully recovered. But from June of 22 to June of 23, the stock market advanced 17%. 17% during this challenging time, during a time when many people, the consumer sentiment was awful. The stock market returned, a very strong 12-month, one-year number. Where do we stand right now? Well, consumer sentiment has improved. No surprise, because headline CPI, headline inflation, has actually been improving. It's still, however, very low compared to that long-term average. Therefore, while I don't believe this tells us perfectly what to anticipate in the future, I would put this on the side of optimism, cautious optimism about the future of the stock market, and that consumer sentiment is still relatively low, and historically speaking, and therefore hopefully we're still feeling those pessimistic vibes that, gosh, it's still pretty dark out. I'm not so sure it's going to get bright anytime soon. And of course, as a contrarian indicator, suggests the stock market could continue to have a more room to run here in this rally. So what's the takeaway? I would encourage you, check your emotions. Did you want to be an investor in June of 2022, in June of last year? No one did. It was hard emotionally to have that perspective of, I need to keep saving. I can't tell you, and I did so many videos on this, how many people during that time were asking questions, leaving comments on the channel here saying, should I stop contributing to my 401k? Should I hold off contributing to my 401k? I've been saving all year, and the investments, my portfolio has done nothing but go down. Should I stop saving? And that's precisely the time when your next 12 months return were going to be significantly above average. So check your emotions, regardless of how you're feeling, and actually in particular, when you're feeling very negative about the outlook of the economy. At least history here suggests that those tend to be great times, over rewarding you for the risk that you may have been feeling with your investment portfolio. So work with your certified financial planner on that. Not only can they help you manage those emotions and stay disciplined to a long-term investment and financial plan, but they can help you craft the right strategy, the right portfolio for you to manage risk as well. So work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us here as well, or send us an email, info@Korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.